do you really define who are the right people, who are the future champion, and how do you really invest in them?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and not always easy to answer. First, it's about observation. You need really to observe the way that people is acting. Sometimes it's not about the knowledge that they already have, but it's about the potential that you can identify. And secondly, it's about the ambition.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ask John Show Live. And I would like to say congratulations. Why? Because some of you are planning to build your career in a multinational companies or want to build your career in an expatriate life. And you know what? This is exactly the right show you have where you can learn tons of things about that life. Because today we have a special guest in our live show today who has built his career for a company, in a multinational company, who's been from in last 25 years. He started his career in early and technician level and then moved up to manager, then senior manager, and then started to run a country level portfolio and presently a general manager of Siemens Healthier Vietnam. I would like to introduce you, Pedro Villaque. Good evening, Pedro. How are you doing today?
Hi, John. Hello. Good evening. Nice to be here together with you. And thank you for the opportunity also to share a little bit of my experience. Hopefully it's useful for everybody.
I'm definitely sure that there will be a lot of exciting stories here and you will be sharing about your life and who will be very valuable for all the audiences to learn to build a career. So I want to start with my first question. I think and there is a lot of people, like you become a GM, general manager, and a lot of people dreams to be a general manager or planning to be a general manager in their life. So let's speak it on as what are the top 7 skills you think that somebody need to achieve to become a general manager?
Well, that's a tough question, but hopefully I have the proper answer for that. I believe that the first and the most important thing probably is to be a role model. And honestly, according to my experience, is the most difficult part. Because when you start to be a general manager, it's very different from being a normal director. Suddenly, everybody is really looking for what you are doing, what you are saying, which means that you don't have any more room for to not be a role model. And this is, for me, probably the most difficult part. Secondly, and it's very connected with the first one, is the communication. Of course, we need to be able to communicate internally with all internal stakeholders, but also externally. You need to communicate with your customers, with your investors, with the market in general, including the regulatory affair and the entities. Yeah? Also, something very important is about the discipline, because you cannot pretend to be a general manager if really not the disciplined people in order to achieve the proper results. Because at the end of the day, you will be requested to have the proper results in the proper time. So we really need to be putting some focus on that. And of course, to be able to accomplish that, you need to be very resilient. Not every time is easy, and of course you cannot give up even with the enormous pressure that sometimes you have it in your day-to-day operation. Another thing, and I believe also very important, is the ability to combine what is the daily operation, because you really need to be answering to the daily normal business close process, but also you need to look, let's say, to middle long term, which means that you need to balance very well what is the actions that you need to implement immediately and the actions that you really need to implement in the future, or to look or see what is needed to change in the future. And the last but not least is about the capability to identify the right players in your organization. As a general manager, you not only need to look for your direct reports, but you really need to have a look on the organization as an overall to try to identify the future champions and also the people that really needs to be developed with the time in order that they can be the middle management of the future. So more or less, it's that what I believe it's important. I don't know if I said 7 as your request, but these are, let's say, the most important things that you need to consider to be a general manager.
Yeah, I got 7 actually. Thank you, Pedro, for sharing those things.
Okay.
I think those are, I think, great points. So, viewers, any one of you already become a professionals or dreaming to be a general manager, and moving on to be a GM or wanted to be a C-suite position, these are the skill set according to Pedro you should build. Number 1, ready to take challenge. Number 2, learn, communicate internally and externally. Number 3, discipline. That's always one of the pillar of leadership. Number 4, be very resilient. Number 5, become excellent in operations. Number 6, future focus. You should have a vision, be visionary. And the 7, connect, learn, connect, and promote the right people in the organization. That was the tip number 7. Now, I think this is, I mean, you brought up something really good points, Pedro. I think those are always been very, very important in this kinds of top level roles and C-suite level roles. So with this
don't you forget about the role model. The role model is very important too.
Role model, yes. Role model, yes. Find him a role model and learn from this one. Follow this person, and I think that's a very good point you bring it up. There's a lot of people doesn't really follow this role model or mentoring thing, but I'm very happy that you brought it up as well too. Thank you, Pedro. So with this one, let's focus about a few of them. I think now many of the viewers can say, how do I really build those skill set? And I think you have built it on in your career, so that help you to become a successful GM. So with this one, let's say about the number 1, excellence in operation. How did you build a really good understanding to manage your operation in the company?
Yeah, it takes some time to learn how to do it. I cannot say that from night to day you know exactly what you're supposed to do properly. Even if you have a lot of training, this is something that you really need to learn with experience. Of course, if you have a proper mentoring or a proper coaching, it's very useful. Which means that you always need to look for the people that can support you, that can give you some guidance and some good ideas. And with that, and with your previous experience in different roles, in different realities, you can build up your proper knowledge base. But I would say that experience is very important. And in this role, and I felt this in the beginning, you really need to learn with experience, which means that you always will face some challenges. This is normal, but that's the way to learn how to do it.
All right, viewers, you wanted to learn about skill set. You want to get really great about this operation skill. So number 1, Pedro mentioned about experience it. You have to get experience. This is number 1. Number 2, learn from mentor, learn from other coaching as well too, and think about how you can get better, and that will help you to move forward. So that was the tips about Pedro. That's how he became an excellent in operations. So with that, I want to go to another point with this is about you also built up the skill set about connecting and promote the right people in your team. How do you really define who are the right people, who are the future champion, and how do you really invest in them?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and not always easy to answer. First, it is about observation. You need really to observe the way that people is acting. Sometimes it's not about the knowledge that they already have, but it's about the potential that you can identify. And secondly, it's about the ambition. Also, you need to find people with the proper ambition, and also people that are eager to learn. Because even if someone is very knowledgeable, but if they are not open to learn more and to be really excited about the learning experience, probably they will never grow up to the level that we need. Also, another point that is very important when you want to identify some champions in your company, and you have the same topic when we are hiring them in the beginning, is the match with the culture of the company. Because you may have excellent people that do not match at all with your company, and in the same way, you may have very good people, well prepared, but are really not in let's say the correct fit. So it's very, very important also to have this in mind. So if you look really carefully, and repeating a little bit what I said in the beginning, if you look really carefully in the organization, observation is key. You can identify the proper people. Then, of course, you need to have a transparent communication towards them, because it's important that they realize that they may have an opportunity, and you need to understand if they are willing also to grow, because not everybody is really ambitious to grow, because to grow and to be able to do more, also they need to go out of their comfort zone. So basically it's observation.
All right. Thank you, Pedro, for sharing this one. So viewers, among you who want to build, who are managing a team as an entrepreneur or as a manager or director, you wanted to improve your skill set, which about connecting and promoting the right people in your team. So these are the skills tips Pedro just shared with us. The number one is about observation. Focus about our observation. That's what he was emphasizing again and again. Number two is about look in observation what they really do. And number three is to identify the people who are eager to learn. And number four, also look for the people who are fit to your culture as well too. And be yourself. Be very transparent in communication. That's also important as well, to connect them as well. And the last one is about show them, guide them, inspire them to go out of their comfort zone. And so they can always keep showing and displaying what they're capable of doing. This one. How do you be always so resilient as a GM? You've been constantly getting challenges from the teams and looking into in operations. So being resilient is one of the skill set you mentioned about the GM. How did you build this being resilient skill set?
Sometimes even myself don't know how you can be so resilient. No, in fact, you will face many challenges every day, different types, different levels of challenges. But fact is that you really need to be resilient enough and calm enough to overcome every obstacle that you will face. And one thing that you really need to be able is to divide the big problems in small problems. Because sometimes it seems that it's almost impossible to overcome, but you really need to stop, think carefully, divide the problem in smaller problems, and really move forward with some resilience that is really needed. Of course, it's not always easy, but if, as you mentioned before, if you are not resilient, you cannot survive in this position. Definitely not. So it really is something that is mandatory to have it. And if you have it, you can really survive and move forward always.
All right. So you mentioned about that this is one of the very key important aspects somebody need to have to build it on. And like you said, it's quite challenging to have it as well, being resilient. So so viewers, you want to be a GM, let's really remember this one. You got to be resilient. Otherwise, it will be very challenging too. You may get the position, but being successful in that position, working for that role, for helping a company become more successful is another thing. So let's move on to the next question with that one. I think that was a good sharing. Thank you very much, Pedro, for that. So you've been working on Siemens for a very early time. You join as a technician phase, and then you move up and you keep getting promoted as well too. And you've been working for a company for 25 years. That's the wow. And where nowadays the millennials quitting in 3 months, 6 months, changing the companies like a flash. So with that thing coming into it, what really did you really do to yourself to keep yourself motivated when you had so many challenges in your roles in different and on your journey with Siemens? How did you keep yourself motivated to stay with Siemens for 25 years? And not only just stay, but you get promoted to like one of the top executive right now.
For me, the key for that is really always you need to challenge yourself and to go out of your comfort zone. If you look for my CV, of course, I had the luck and opportunity to try different places and different positions and different opportunities, but also I look for that because not many years after the company, I had already a relatively decent and nice position. But even though I decided to jump out of the comfort zone, I decided to move for a different country, a different challenge. And this was the reason why I kept so motivated for so long and so many years. I believe if you stay doing the same thing, even if you are good on that, many years, probably you need to change company. But fortunately, in our company, we have the chance really to be international, to work in different environments, different countries, very different positions. And this is the reason why I'm still in the same company after all of these years. Of course, I had different opportunities to jump to different companies. I was invited several times to do that, but I was always able to find the right opportunity inside Siemens LCDs, and that's the reason why I'm still here. Hopefully, I can continue my career in the company because really, up to now, I just can say that I had the opportunity to try different challenges, different positions in very different environments, and this is a great thing in terms of life experience.
All right. So we have mentioned something about it happens from both sides that the viewers. Pedro mentioned about this thing came from both sides. One, he always wanted to get out of his comfort zone, and Siemens also always had room for him to grow and give the opportunity was around. Do you think that, Pedro, there was a mentor or your direct manager also had a good influence on you for this career growth that time? Because you mentioned about coaching and mentoring in the first question.
I have an answer that is, I believe is really relevant that people take this into consideration. Of course, I get some support from my managers, from my mentoring, but even in a company like Siemens, where you really have the opportunity, you cannot wait that the opportunity comes to you. You need to look for the opportunity. Of course, there are opportunities there, but nobody will knock at your door and say, okay, you want to change. No, you need really proactively to look for the change, which means that the person that really creates the career is the proper person. Nobody will give you the recipe, said, okay, you will be today here, then you need to go to international somewhere, and then you need to pick the different opportunity. No, you really need to design your own pathway. Of course, the company should provide you the opportunities, but you need to look for that. Even it's not HR that comes to you and said, okay, we have this booklet of opportunities, just pick. No, it's not like that. You really need to have your proper network internally, but not only network. You need really to look for, and you need to understand what you want, which means that career is something that you create yourself. Nobody is doing for you.
Wow, you have actually shared some tremendous lines on this one, on Pedro. I'm just thinking, which one should I summarize first? Thank you. Viewers, so he just said something really special on this one. I really suggest you to pay attention to what he just said last 2 minutes. So I'm trying to summarize to you. Number one, nobody won't give it to you, spoon feed you. You need to look for it all the time. Always need to look for it. And not just only doing networking inside of your company, but you also need to look for it and have to be showing that you are worthy for that. And that's how you will keep growing to your organization. By the way, some of you may say that a different way. We're happy to do a question as well too. Maybe there's some company just simply not ready for such kind of room, which is fine. We will talk more in later on of this session. But what Pedro just said was stunning, and his few words was really mind-boggling. I strongly suggest you guys, after the live show, you even watch that part again, so you can really understand what actually Pedro meant with that. That means a lot. It's short, but means a lot. So with that, I wanted to go to the next thing. It's more related about the GM role, and I think there is a lot of founder CEO, entrepreneur CEO, and there's a lot of other SME type of CEOs there, and for them this will be really valuable from you to understand where Siemens is a quite multinational company for you to learn. So as a GM, what are the criteria do you consider for making a decision for business development or growth?
First is to evaluate the risk and the opportunity. So you always need to balance in between the risk of doing something, which includes some investment up front, and the opportunity that you are creating. So this is really very, very key. And this is very important. For instance, if you want to go for a different market, I can give you the example of Vietnam. If you want to go for Laos, for instance, that is a market that belongs to us, you need to balance the risk and the opportunity always. Of course, then you need to understand how it is the market, how it is the environment, how are the customers, if the market is big enough, if you see really a segment where you can play, because probably you have a market, not necessarily your portfolio is suitable for the market, so also you need to do this analysis. And last but not least, you need to do some analysis on price position. Because it's the same, if you are providing and promoting certain level of solutions, not necessarily they are suitable for a specific market. So you need to balance all of this. And of course, also you need to look carefully for the partners that can support the introduction on the market. Not necessarily you are going alone to the market, which means in some cases you may have distributor agencies and other organizations that are supporting your go-to-market, so also you need to consider. And lately, also you need to design the total go-to-market the way that you want to be there, marketing activities, communication, which portfolio are you presenting. So all of these should be considered before you go to the market. Otherwise, you are investing and maybe you are in a big risk.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So dear viewers, so these are the other tips for coming out from Pedro about when you wanted to consider for entering, penetrating a particular new market. So first, risk versus opportunity. You need to do this analysis. Number two, assess the partnerships. More better partnership we have, more better opportunity you have. Number three, evaluate the market. Listen what markets say rather than try to educate market. Which is the last one? Plan your marketing and sales activities where you can and reduce the gaps by educating the market as well. So these are the key takeaway I took from the last question from Pedro. Thank you. I think do you want to give any particular sharing about if somebody wanted to enter in Vietnam in business development as exclusively particularly for Vietnam, somebody should consider about something? Do you think the local law or anything else they should know?
There are two things very, very complex here in Vietnam. First is the go-to-market itself, because normally you need to play in the market not direct or not only direct. You need to have a blend of local companies supporting your go-to-market, because there are some limitation in access to the public market, and the public market is still the biggest market in Vietnam, which means that you really need to consider this complexity. Multi-layer distribution is difficult to manage. You need to be sure about what you are doing. And of course, compliance is also a very important topic in Vietnam. So you need to really to be aware of that and to be controlling in the proper way. So this is one thing. Secondly, is about regulation. Is a market with a lot of regulation. Also, you need to know very well the situation. And also, you need to take always into consideration the political moment, because it's very sensitive. And the moment you enter the market depends a lot of many external factors. So you need to also to take this in consideration. It's a market with a lot of opportunities, because it's a country that is growing sustainable in a sustainable way in the last couple of years, and the forecast is that it will continue to grow. By the way, Vietnam, prior to COVID, was one of the three biggest markets of growth until 2050. Not everybody is aware of it, so it's one of the countries that will grow more. So it's very, very nice country for that. And it's also a big country with, let's say, a starting GDP that is not too big. So there is a lot of room to grow, but it's a complex market. It's very complex, which means that really we need to be very careful in the way that we penetrate, in the way that we are cover the market. Also, it's a market that is not easy to cover geographically wise, because you know that access to the provinces is difficult, but it's needed because there is a lot of people everywhere. So we really need to be able to cover, and not necessarily we have the best IT connection or roads to cover that. But this is also something that needs to be taken in consideration, because the cost of covering the market is high outside the big cities. So we need also to take this in consideration. But it's a very, very interesting and dynamic market, and I believe there's plenty of good opportunities here.
Thank you, Pedro, for sharing. I think that was all. That's the key information you have shared. So one of the key information I just want to highlight that. So if you wanted to think about intern in Vietnam, so Pedro just shared a key information that is cost of distribution of product outside the main cities is more expensive. So that is one of the information you should remember. But in terms of the other key takeaway, what I have learned from his sharing is number one is about to enter in the country is about partner with the local company. Number two, lean distribution. Number three is about understanding about the compliance of the market. Number four is about learn local market regulation. Number five, understand political movements. This is very important. Pedro mentioned about it. Number six is about distribution and logistic inside the country. You really, it's got to be aligned to your marketing and distribution, how you wanted to grow your product and distribution. So that's Pedro also brought it up as one of the things you should consider even before interning in a country like Vietnam. Thank you, Pedro. I think it's been going great. I think there's a lot of key takeaway for viewers here.
Good.
So with that, I'm going to move to the next one. Is this one? This one's going to be about leadership. Being a GM, you also mentioned about discipline, which is one of the core pillar of leadership thing. So my question will be a little bit slightly with edge to that one too. When do you decide to hire a person for a senior role, let's say senior manager and up? What are the skill set do you want to see inside that person?
First, definitely the most important is the attitude. Is someone that should have the passion for what they want to do, which means that if someone is really not excited about the daily activity, about the accomplishment in the company, is not suitable for any position, being a senior manager or being any normal position. For us, the passion that the people can show to the company and to the job itself is very important. So this is, let's say, a key thing. Secondly, and very important for me, is to be accountable. And this is not also related to the level of the person. If someone that really joined the company should feel that he is accountable and owner of their own processes, which means that I have the expectation that the tasks that are related with that person that really believes that they are, let's say, their property, which means they are really accountable for what the delivery. This is also very important. Also discipline, definitely, and we are by that we are a German company, which means that we have a kind of German culture in Vietnam, which means that really we are very assertive, we are very punctual, we really want to deliver what we promise. So this is a kind of culture company, but it's really also very important. The discipline to be able to deliver on time what was promised is very important for us, definitely. So I should say that this third one is important for everybody, but of course it's even more important for the middle senior management, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that will deliver the results that will pay the salary to the whole company, to everybody. So it's really important.
All right, thank you, Pedro, for sharing about your secret. So hey guys, anybody wants to work for Siemens LDNR, these are the tips he just shared with you guys. These are the things you must have. So let me just summarize again what are the things he just shared. Number one, attitude is everything. Number two, own your process, being accountable. Number three, discipline is a part of the game. Number four, being result oriented. So these are the four things Pedro will be looking for you if anybody wants to join in a great big companies, MNC companies. So get master of any of all of those four if you want to get into a leadership role on those four skills. So with that, I want to jump a little bit about your life stories. This part actually, I think this is I think a lot of people can get this thing from you. So tell us something about a very challenging things you have faced in your early part of your career. Let's say about when you were under 25 or early below 30. Share us one of the stories where you had a challenge and how did you overcome that one? Because everybody has setback in their life sooner or later.
Yeah, but probably the biggest challenge that I faced in this company, on this position, not in this position, but since I joined Siemens, it was in the beginning. I will say to you that after 6 months, I was really a little bit frustrated because it takes time to get some result, and this is not an easy let's say, business, which means it's so different from every single business. And my background is electrical engineer, so I'm joining something that is related with medicine, so it's not easy. So first challenge, it was after a couple of months, and this is a good tip for millennials: don't give up. Because I almost gave up after a couple of months, and after 25 years, I'm still here. Because I decided, no, I really need to insist, the results will come. So this is it was, let's say, the first one. Then, of course, you have challenges to overcome every single time you change position. And I was lucky enough to be, for instance, one of the first business managers when we decided to implement this model. I was one of the first key account managers when we decided to implement this model. And it was difficult because nobody was really aware about, everybody knows the name, but when it was implemented, nobody was really aware about the full content, which means that I was forced to learn also to understand what is the real meaning of and what is really needed. Another thing that I believe it was a little bit difficult in the beginning, now of course it's not anymore, is when we start going out from your country, because I start working in my country, in Portuguese, and suddenly I was exposed to be on the phone, on the phone, because there was no conference calls at that time, but start talking with German, with people from all over the world, different cultures, and you really need to communicate and they need to understand you. And it's not only about the English or the Spanish or the French, it's about really the meaning of what you are saying and what they are saying to you, because different people from different countries have different ways to work. So this is also something that you need really to learn how to do, and it's also with your experience, but it's for the current world is something essential, because really we are in a global world right now. So we cannot anymore think that we are just working in our normal environment in our country. Yeah? And then, of course, I had some nice challenges during my career, some big business that I have to do by myself. For instance, I remember one that was very effective when I was leading magnetic resonance in Brazil. I did, in the year 2008, the biggest MR business in the world for Siemens on that year. So I was able in one single contract to close more than $25 million.
Wow.
So it was something that was very demanding. I almost have a heart attack when I was but of course, I will never forget about that. It was something that really impacted, and it's something that really gives you the strength for the coming challenges, because then you realize that you can do that. Yeah. So these big hits that you achieve in your life definitely are very important for being able to grow more in the future. In the same way, also when you have some, let's say, downs, and when you lose something, also you need to learn from that, which is also not so easy. And of course, and just to complement the idea, every single time I change country, of course, you'll never forget that. Now it's more easy because I'm already in the fourth different country that I'm working, but I remember perfectly the day that I moved the first time from Portugal to Brazil. And when the airplane left my country, it was really something that I will never forget. And then I remember perfectly the moment when I arrived there, the first day, and said, I arrived in the auto alone and said, okay, now this is my new life, completely different environment, but that's it. It's decided. So now the way is moving forward. So, and these moments you never forget. But they're important because you really grow with that. And then suddenly you are working in a very different country, different people, and you really learn a lot. And also it's interesting, and this is my last comment about it. You have, and at the time when I moved, I had already some years in Siemens, so I had already some let's say good name in my country. And suddenly you move completely for a new environment. Of course, it's the same company, but nobody knows you, which means that you need to start from the scratch again. You need to conquer everybody again. You need to get the buy-in from everybody again. And this is challenging because you are starting in a different environment and you do it again. Of course, every time you do that is interesting and you learn more. Of course, it's more impacting the first time, definitely.
All right, there's a lot of key takeaway on that one, Pedro. Thank you for sharing. Actually, so viewers, I've been hearing those great stories about challenges. So these are the things I just extracted from the story, which I'm happy to share with you, viewers. So before I sharing you this key takeaways, viewers, we're gonna start the Q&A maybe after 5 minutes. After 1 or 2 more questions. So keep going ahead and keep commenting in the stream your questions. And we already saw that there's a lot of questions coming out from Mark, Hoan, Ween as well too. So keep commenting these great questions as well too, and we will do our best to answer. Like, look at this, we have the GM here to answer your questions too. So put on your questions, and we'll love to have you answer those questions as well too. So these are the key takeaway about challenge. What Pedro helped him to grow is, number one is he figured out how to not to give up. Don't give up. Number two is about look for it, opportunity. Don't wait for it. He mentioned about it multiple times in his sharing in previous question as well too. Number three is about try new things, and which is related to 4, which is be adaptive. He mentioned about when he fly off from his Portugal, from his country, and that's this emotion he could never forget. But then he start to learn to adapt, and the next one is about go always out of your comfort zone. This is one of the things he shared as well through his story that helped him out. And the second one and next one is he also mentioned about he learned how to learn effective communications. It's not about just exchanging the word, about understanding what they really wanted, and that's why he learned about to do in different countries, different cultures. So that is, it's not about just exchanging email and words. It's much more than effective communications. And he also shared about it. Start to have a mindset of start from zero again and again. Even he moved to new places, people doesn't know him, so he start from the zero again. Thank you. I think those are really great takeaways. I think if somebody use it in early age from 2022, I mean, they could be a great professional as well if they do it consistently. So with that one, probably my last question from my side, and then we will start answering the Q&A from the audience. So my last question will be is this one. A lot of professionals get into the corporates or companies, and they go young, and they've been very, very happy and very confident with a lot of energy. They get inside and they start to become a manager, and then being after a few managers, they start to grow kind of self-doubt inside them. How do you overcome this self-doubt thing? When did you really figure out that, no, I can be more than a manager, and you go director, and then you go for next level? How do you overcome self-doubt?
It's not about the ambition for the next position, to be honest. It's about the capability that you do some self-reflection every time, and you realize that you can always improve. Which means, of course, it's good to have a certain ambition. You need to target, and it's human being that you want to be the next step always. Sometimes it's even not too rational. It's just because you want to be there. But more than that is to look to yourself and try to understand what is really what you can really improve. And you will realize that you did a lot of good things, that you are able to do a lot of good things, but there are always a lot of things to improve. And one of the things that you really need to do more, or to realize how to do it, is the way that you interact with the others, which is the most difficult part. You didn't ask, but I can share with you, for me, the most difficult part of the management, of the GM role, is really to manage the people. Managed business is not so difficult. It's more economics, so it's more black and white. But manage people, it's much more difficult, because the people are not machines. So you need really to understand, you need to motivate them, And you need to be able, even when you are not in, let's say, your full motivation, you need first to not be transparent on that, and you need to be able to really keep them motivated, pushing them. And this topic about keeping people motivated and keeping the organization as an overall motivated, it was really something that we need to face in the last couple of months. It was clear when we were forced to lock down that it was a very different moment, and you need to find different ways to keep people working in the same way. And I can say honestly that I was very positively surprised with my organization here in Vietnam, because despite all of the problems, all of the difficulties, people start working remotely in the same way, with the same effort, with the same level of dedication. And for me, it was a great learning experience. Really, I was not expecting. I thought that people after a while start to be, let's say, more relaxed or not so productive, but it was exactly the opposite, which means it was also a good learning experience for me, because at the end of the day, of course, I tried to keep them motivated, but it was also the team itself that was able to react positively to these challenges.
Thank you for adding into it. So I actually gonna ask you one more question, because you just added on that. I think that's something great for viewers to learn from you on that. So just to talk about self-doubt. Any one of you right now living in the self-doubt about what you can do or what you can achieve in your career, in your life, or anything. So these are the tips about from Pedro. It's number one is about self-reflection. It's one of the things. Number two is always find a way to improve and focus what you can do well too as well. So don't forget and don't ignore that as well. But always, like the last one is always focus where you can improve as well. So these are the key takeaways. So I just want to talk about on this one is about how do you keep your team motivated? Because you really emphasize this one. It's very important. And you've been surprised the way the team you build around in Vietnam, they've been doing the same productivity. So how do you keep your team motivated in a normal?
First is about energy. You need to be a very energetic person. Otherwise, you cannot be in this position. Which means that everybody has some days better, some days worse. But first, you need to be always in a very high level of energy, and you need to be able to share this energy to the other people. Secondly, you need to be really enthusiastic about the accomplishment, about the challenges that we have as a company that we need to overcome together. So it's about show the people that you are there, not just to lead, but also to push them, to help them in a very positive way. Of course, you need to point it out the things that they need to improve, but you need to always be very positive. So basically, I believe that if you want to motivate your team, it's about the energy that you can really irradiate from you to the team. Yeah. So you need to be the drive of the company, and every single day they need to feel that you are there to drive, to help them, to motivate everybody.
All right. Thank you, Pedro, for sharing this one. I think this is going to be very valuable. So, any one of you who have been going to start to work or already working as a manager, I think these are the really great takeaway Pedro just shared is about the way you will need to motivate your team. These are the tips from Pedro. Number one, your energetic personality is important. If you don't have energy, it's hard. Number two, you need to channel your energy to other people. Number three is about share the challenges with others and work together. Number four is about improve the positivity inside the team. And last one he mentioned about is EQ related, emotional intelligence. You need to have some sort of emotional intelligence so you can create the emotional bond with the team and understand them. Thank you, Pedro. I think this has been a great sharing so far. I really enjoyed listening to your sharing, actually, even myself. Yeah.